Hello there my RPG lovers and welcome to another video. Early access on Steam is a double-edged sword. This method of releasing games can be a great option for small studios, especially if they are looking for a constructive feedback from the community or just an alternate way to gather funds for their projects. But it can also be a quick way to release an unfinished project with just a bunch of empty promises for the future. That's why I'm always careful when I'm talking about early access titles, but I like to stay positive and try my best to find some interesting games that have potential. Today I have a list of 5 RPGs in early access that you probably never heard about. But before we start talking about them, a quick word from today's sponsor. DLCompare is the site for comparing video game prices. It's a great tool for gamers who want to get the best deal possible when buying digital games. Just search for the game you want to buy and DLCompare shows you the place with the lowest price. And of course, you can find digital games for basically all platforms. It's easy to use and it's completely free. Check out this website by clicking the link in the description. Number 5. Fade the First Chapter. I was following the development of this game in the past couple of months and it seems like it's making some good progress. It's an open-world action RPG that got released in early access back in December. When it comes to the story, the Land of Awaken is covered in violent miasma that forces men to devolve to their most primal senses and take on new forms. It's obviously in its early stages of development, but there is a solid foundation for a good RPG here. I've spent around 5 or 6 hours playing it recently and I had a lot of fun actually. Gameplay wise, it's obviously inspired by Dark Souls, but besides just a couple of features like stamina system and big boss fights, I don't think this game is trying to be another Dark Souls. The term Souls-like is being used so loosely today, especially when people try to describe any kind of challenge in the game. Speaking about that, Fade is definitely a challenging game, even though in its current state it can feel really unbalanced and hard for wrong reasons. That's nothing unusual in the early stages of development and it should improve with updates. When it works as intended, the melee and ranged combat is pretty decent, even though it lacks the sense of impact a bit. You also have different spells at your disposal, but I didn't get to use them much, so I can't talk about that. I think the gameplay has a lot of potential, judging by everything I experienced in the game so far. The animations on some enemies are really good, which is always a good sign. That's really impressive for a one-man project. Every game that tries to pull off a similar combat system needs to have some proper animations, amongst other things, and judging by this, I think this guy knows what he's doing. The feel of the combat in general still needs to improve in order to be good, but it's slowly getting there. Right from the beginning, you can recruit a couple of companions to come with you. They can be extremely helpful in combat. Well, actually, a little bit too helpful because sometimes they will end up killing all the enemies by themselves in some situations. And sometimes they will just die really fast. This is the problem with balancing that I mentioned before, so I guess there is a lot of work to be done here. Besides that, there is a proper dialogue system like you would expect to see in an RPG, which is supposed to offer a decent amount of depth. Another thing I really like is the simple climbing mechanic which this game uses, but more importantly the environments seem to be designed with this in mind. There is a lot to talk about when it comes to this game and I'll probably do a separate video in the future. Anyway, keep your eyes on this one. Number 4. Sense of Aura. I covered this game with a dedicated video not so long ago. There was a demo available on Steam and it gave me a good idea what to expect from the final product. Sense of Aura is an open-world action RPG which you can explore by sailing the Sea of Sand. It's definitely an interesting concept, but unfortunately I didn't get to experience the exploration part in the demo because it ends right before you get to the boat. That's not the only thing that this game offers though. I was pleasantly surprised with the gameplay and how it works. It's nothing revolutionary, but it felt really polished for a demo/early access title. You get to use 7 different weapon types and each of them offers a unique playstyle. To further increase the depth of the gameplay, there are elemental gems that you can socket in your weapons, which will augment your abilities. And to my big surprise, this game has a jump button and it seems like the levels are built with this in mind. I really can't think of another ARPG of this type with a jump mechanic, so this is really interesting and unique. Artistically, this game is heavily stylized and I think it looks really good in general. The only thing I didn't like is the weapon cleansing mechanic that seems to be really aggressive. After just a couple of hits you have to clean your weapons, and when you do this your character becomes really vulnerable. But I like the sense of difficulty, especially when I fought the boss in the demo. It has the right amount of challenge without being annoying and obnoxious. I just hope the open world will be interesting to explore. Check out the video I did for this game to hear my in-depth thoughts. Number 3. Gedonia. This is another game that I covered on the channel before. Since then, Gedonia got some major updates. Currently, it has very positive reviews on Steam, so I guess people received it with open arms. Gedonia is an open-world action RPG, like almost every game on this list. It has a very simple graphic design, and I guess some people will be turned off by that. But where it lacks in the graphical fidelity, it makes it up with the depth of the RPG mechanics. Right from your character creation, you have some permanent choices to make when it comes to your skills. When you start the game, you will notice a lot of different options to play and build your character. The world offers you a lot of freedom, and quests have multiple solutions with choices and consequences. The combat improved a lot since the last time I checked the game, but it's not amazing by any means. It still has some problems, but I think it's decent for what it's trying to do. If you like the freedom and a lot of different options for building your character in RPGs, and you're not that bothered by the simplistic art style, you should check this game out. You can also watch the last video I did for this game for more info. I think this will be a great RPG when the final version releases. Number 2. Solasta Crown of the Magister. This game is another successful Kickstarter project. Solasta is a turn-based tactical CRPG based on Dungeons & Dragons 5.1 rule set. To be honest, I didn't expect to have a lot of fun with this game, not because I thought it's going to be bad, I just don't like turn-based RPGs that much. But when it released in early access back in October, I had a very long play session the same day. You can create up to 4 different characters before you start the game, and you have a lot of customization options. And I mean a lot. While some other similar RPGs can easily overwhelm you with the amount of options, I think Solasta does a great job with avoiding that problem. Mostly because of the great UI design, I guess. But what I like the most is the vertical map design in this game, or rather how Solasta utilized that in combat. The combat is highly tactical and it seemed really balanced actually. You have a lot of different approaches in combat, which makes every encounter unique. You can get the sense of that as soon as you repeat the same fight after you died. It's almost never the same and it forces you to come up with different strategies. This is largely because of the great AI design in the game. And of course, this also depends on how you set up your party. If you expect to find amazing looking cutscenes and great voice acting, you're going to be disappointed. This part of the game is kinda underwhelming, especially if we compare it to Baldur's Gate 3. The budget for Solasta was a lot smaller, but I think this won't be a problem for most people. After all, I think the gameplay is the most important thing when it comes to these types of games, and Solasta does an amazing job on that field. Number 1. Skyclimbers. This game just recently blew up on Kickstarter. The studio behind it managed to surpass the goal by a large amount. When it comes to the game itself, it sounds really ambitious. It's pretty much the only game on this list that I didn't have the chance to play, so take everything that I say with a grain of salt. I got some Valheim and Horizon Zero Dawn vibes after I watched a few videos about this game, and it's probably not hard to see why. Skyclimbers is supposed to have a rich base building system where you can chop trees, mine stone, and basically build your own kingdom. The environments look really good in the trailer, with different terrain types and really nice color palettes. The art style is obviously inspired by anime RPGs, although I wouldn't say it looks like your typical JRPG. But I don't know, you be the judge. Weeb. Anyway, besides all of that, the world in Skyclimbers will be procedurally generated with quote-unquote infinite possibilities. That sounds stupid to be honest, although it doesn't matter. Before Valheim came out, I think we all cringed a bit when someone mentions procedurally generated worlds. But Valheim kinda changed the perspective about that. This game also has some survival features and the ability to choose between 3 different classes for your character. What really caught my attention are the monsters that we could see in their videos. Their design looks really good, and what's even better, we can actually tame them and use them in combat. And in case you're wondering, yes, there is an online co-op mode as well. Now you can see why I thought about Valheim when I saw this game. And that would be it, I guess. Just remember guys, all of these games are in early access or soon coming out in early access, so don't expect any miracles. The goal of this video was mostly to bring attention to these games, so you can maybe check them out in the near future, when their content complete or at least close to that. But if you want to support these developers, then be my guest. Just to be clear, this is not a paid promotion video or anything similar. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little list, and if you did, pressing the thumbs up button would mean a lot. Don't forget to subscribe for more RPG content. If you want to support the channel in the long run, consider becoming a Patreon or a YouTube member. You can get your name on the end credits, as well as some other perks like early access to videos, Discord roles, my plans for future content, etc, etc. That will be all, and I'll see you in the next one.